Story 1. Everything you buy has no obligation to stay the same for its entire use. Phones and computers are the biggest culprits. However, I bought a treadmill and used it connected to Wi-Fi for 5 years. It just pushed a user interface update that forces advertisements during workouts. I'm appalled. I didn't agree to the change, and there is no way to change it back. After 5 years, I'm in no position for a refund. It makes me feel so out of control about even little things in my life. Story 2. Makes me more sad than angry about the amount of hate and anger that is being put out into the world. I know a lot of that is due to rage generates views, but it does seem like the average person is more likely to get angry at minor things and take that anger out on others. I have even started noticing an uptick in straight venomous comments here on Reddit over benign and meaningless topics. Edit typo. Story 3. The dumbing down of society, abusing experts or people with expertise in their fields. Accepting the "I did my own research" line. No, you did not. Watching some videos linked to some misguided individual on a social media platform is not research. Story 4. The proliferation of technology in general. I'm far from being a Luddite. Smartphones are convenient, and I love me some Wi-Fi. That said, I miss the days when I left the house with nothing but my keys and wallet in my pockets. I've never been very cash solvent, so struggling to scrimp and save was a pain even in the old days. But now if, out of the blue, my phone or laptop dies, I'm looking at a few hundred at minimum to sort that out. I might not have that until next month at least. In the old days, I guess that's just taking the bus to Ramen Town for a while. But today, I am effectively cut off from temporary agencies, social contacts, and all the other things that need a quick response scan. Until I get my expensive tech sorted out, no, I can't email you my job application. No, I didn't catch that important notice from my bank services. No, I can't prove two-point authentication, so I guess I'm digitally persona non grata. It's a double-edged sword, I feel, if you're not financially gifted enough to not notice. Story 5. We are losing our grip on what is considered factual. If someone does not have every tiny detail spelled out to them, then the whole concept can be written off as fake or insert organization is lying to us. A little skepticism is healthy, but not when it undermines very important and easily proven facts that give us a basis for reality. Story 6. How acceptable it has become to be a giant asshole in public, and that people think it is wrong to criticize or shame people for public behavior. There should be more shame for acting poorly. Story 7. People have seemingly forgotten norms that felt like they were long established. When walking, keep to the right. When driving and you come to a stop sign at the same time as one or more other cars, the vehicle that reaches the four-way stop to the right should be given the right-of-way. If you didn't arrive at the intersection first, the right-of-way is not yours to give to anyone else. When driving, if you've already entered the intersection, don't stop to wave a pedestrian through the crosswalk in front of you. When the right-of-way is clearly yours, take it. Waving other vehicles on isn't being nice. It makes you unpredictable. Story 8. Hold my beer. The weaponization of therapy speak. Therapy is great. Most people would benefit from a few sessions. But unfortunately, a lot of people seem to take away only the fact that because they have new vocabulary, they can start using that vocabulary to control or attack others. If you don't agree with someone, it used to be that person is a jerk, and you moved on. Now they're not a jerk. They're damaged by years of trauma and emotional neglect and have defaulted to toxic masculinity or insert whatever, because they are too afraid and ashamed to address it. Problematic behaviors aren't opportunities for growth. That person is entirely a narcissist or codependent or autistic or borderline, and good luck crawling out of that. It reminds me a lot of that period between 2016 to 2019 when it was trendy to discredit people's opinions because they were more privileged due to various reasons. A group of friends, all white, would literally fight over what I called the tragedy Olympics, trying to assert themselves as the greatest underdog. It was bizarre. Now it's been replaced with, hey, I know I'm damaged and acknowledge it, but I went to a few therapy sessions and am basically a therapist now, so I'm going to diagnose you as a very messed up person too. By the way, I'm better than you because you don't even see your problems, and I do. Story 9. Everything needs an application. I just want to use the website or pick up the phone and speak to an actual human being. And the billion vendors you have to manually untick because there's no reject all button for your cookies. And shrinkflation. Do you think you are going to charge me more for less product and I won't notice? Keyboard warriors. Making choices based only on caring about yourself and not society as a whole. Spelling of people's names just to be different. Ugh. Advertisements. They're everywhere and on everything. Waiting times for healthcare and access to the right healthcare. Rich getting richer. I'm going to stop now. Oh, I feel like this task was made for me. Story 10. The popularity of a news source is not based on how accurate, fair, and balanced their reporting is, but on whichever says things that make you and your team feel good. Sensationalism, breaking news, whatever keeps you glued to them for the ad money. Imagine if we listened to people whom both sides can respect and that it was possible to find them. Story 11. Angry seems like a strong, narrow word to describe my feelings, but people getting their news from short-form social media and apparently taking those sources at face value and becoming jaded, then moving to nihilistic conclusions rather than wiser absurdist ones. All of that is vexing. It's too sad to be angry about. It's just disappointing, though not surprising given that the average social content producer has no training in journalistic ethics, which shows in their work, and then in the opinions and attitudes of people consuming that work. Story 12. Housing and renting prices are going up significantly, making them unaffordable for many. I would love to get my own place, but I can't make it work on my salary where I live. Story 13. I'm with the baby boomers on these. 1. Everyone expects a tip. 2. Tablet menus. And 3. Subscriptions. I wouldn't say I'm angry, but I'm not completely on board with them. Story 14. The zero tolerance that people have for honest mistakes or mix-ups. It blows my mind how angry customers get and how quickly the "let's see what your board president has to say about this" comes out. So I guess everyone goes nuclear and threatens your job the moment they get inconvenienced. For this reason, I am an overly patient person to anyone providing me with products or services. Story 15. The fact that society seems perfectly okay with artificial intelligence doing fast and cheap art now while copying and building upon human artists' original styles. This is a way to kill opportunities for hardworking artists and prevent them from making a living when artificial intelligence can create a piece within a few seconds that will do just fine for a lot of customers. Story 16. People just keep getting meaner and meaner to each other. Imagine a world where people were at the very least decent to each other. Everyone always has an excuse and justification for it too, like they don't realize that's just everyone else's excuse too. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be better. That is true strength. Story 17. The erosion and death of the social contract. I shouldn't be surprised at where things are going in America when all I have to see is people driving like idiots who only care about themselves instead of properly signaling, merging, stopping, or moving out of the way for emergency services, or thinking that signs and warnings only apply to other people. The same applies to public parks. Walking in the no-walk areas, leaving trash everywhere, dog waste too, feeding the animals, cutting down trees, marking on rocks or outright breaking rock formations, starting fires in drought conditions, dumping waste in the water. And don't even get me started on lights and noise. The maltreatment of green spaces is a direct reflection on society. Don't get me wrong. There have always been people who have broken the social contract and ruined things for everyone else. The problem is that society is beyond the tipping point. People will just get theirs and everyone else can suffer. Story 18. Social media influencers and generally people like the hawk to a girl that get famous for basically no reason then make a lot of money. And yes, I'm jealous. Story 19. Mass victim complex that was taught to this generation leads them to never look inside themselves and always blame others for the bad things they go through. Story 20. A phone bill used to cost you $25 a month. Maybe an extra $5 if you got local long distance included. Now, communications are $100 for a cell phone, plus a $175 cable and internet bill, plus your $1,000 phone. And that's before you add any of your subscriptions to Netflix and whatever. It's insane. Story 21. Subscriptions for everything. I refuse to participate. When cars have to have them, I'm walking. I don't understand why people still play video games. If I ever bought a video game and found out I had to buy more items to play it, I'd return it to the store as defective. It's just theft. Story 22. It feels like people do not care about proper grammar and spelling anymore. I see typos here that would have received a flood of corrections back in the day. Today, it seems like the grammar enthusiasts are finally defeated. Story 23. Most therapists are going video only. Sure, it's convenient for many clients, but in-person therapy is much better, especially for people who are really struggling. It's hard to find an in-person therapist these days. Story 24. Why do we teach our kids to be kind, helpful, honest, respectful of women, and law-abiding citizens, but we allow a man who is the opposite of all of that to run the country for 8 years? Story 25. Artificial intelligence that's running out of control. The proliferation of strange videos, populist politics, and people who vote for them that, when faced with reality, turn into leopards ate my face situations. Disdain for reading. Freedom of speech is not freedom from consequences. Cigarette chic becoming the new aesthetic. Story 26. Ridiculous how tipping turned from about 5 professions to everyone now trying to guilt you into tipping them. You don't gotta. It's the same when cashing out at a store and they're asking, "Would you like to donate to this cause?" We have firefighters stopping cars entering plazas for their boot drive, etc. I donate to causes, but put your hand away. I know where to find you, thanks. Story 27. We ended up being even more racist in the 2020s than we were in the 2010s in the United States. Good job, ignorant people, you're winning and it's a complete disaster. Story 28. All sports are being streamed, and you need a subscription to watch, for example. Why would I pay $80 a year for ESPN Plus? You also have to pay $70 on top of that to watch UFC fights, basketball, and football games. Story 29. Ads. But literally everywhere. My 15-year-old car radio with an old-school display used to show the artist and the song name in green text. Now, in between that, you get ads in the green text. Story 30. I reckon the absolute worst change has been the rise of outrage addiction and how many people are just constantly actively seeking out reasons to be angry. Story 31. The breakdown of social teaching from in-groups. In the past, everything you learned socially came from your family around you. But now people send their children off to daycare, and it's uncertain if that child is going to learn anything or just get traumatized by other children who also don't know what they are doing. Now we live in a society with no standards for dating, friendship, or community. People just wander around, unsure how or where to meet people. There is not a middle ground place meant just for being together. You're either at home or at a place with a purpose to get in and get out. It's infuriating to watch good people rotting away simply because there's no community for them to be part of. Story 32. The dead internet theory that artificial intelligences have taken over and there are only about 5 human weirdos online isn't literally true, but it might as well be. AI-generated text is encroaching, and there's such a deluge of algorithmically optimized but unsavory content. This was supposed to be the end of scarcity, and thus the end of capitalism. Instead, it has become a surveillance and diversion apparatus that serves cybercriminals, despotic governments, and employers far better than it does us, in part because most of us don't have the money to pay for it, and these entities are actually very good at their jobs. Story 33. Nowadays, society seems to demand that we live in what essentially amounts to a state of full emotional involvement with everyone around us, for the sake of people who cannot tolerate living any other way. Emotional involvement can be harmful even on a scale of interpersonal relationships, and when all of society demands it, it's little wonder that we are driving ourselves crazy. Healthy people need space, including emotional space, and asking them to give that up is not a reasonable adjustment. Story 34. Parents letting their children use social media without supervision and then not providing coping skills and context for the stuff they are going to be exposed to. People under 20 are growing up surrounded by adult conversations that they do not really understand, and they are not doing the reading that you have to do to participate in these kinds of discussions. To be honest, they are probably too stressed and dysregulated to sit down with a book anyway. They are also growing up submerged in internet criticism, and it shows because they are incredibly defensive and uncomfortable with vulnerability. I just feel so bad for them because healing from this is going to be hard. Story 35. It might have always been there, but I feel like I am noticing an increasing lack of curiosity, imagination, and independent problem-solving abilities. It is like people want everything spoon-fed to them and handed to them and do not want to have to put in even the most cursory amount of work to figure out how to do things for themselves. Story 36. I am only allowed so many keystrokes per day, so this comment cannot go too deep. If I were to pick one change in society that made me the most angry, well, I would say the loss of appreciation for pickles. International Pickle Day came and went, and not even a single pickle was celebrated. Ridiculous.